All right. Welcome, folks. This is Thoughtful Movement and Fitness, and you're here probably because you're interested in some fitness stuff. We're going to be talking kind of the basics to begin. As we move along, we'll start talking to guests. I'll have some other experts on. But today, we're just going to go ahead and I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and we will start talking about some of the things we're going to talk about. To begin with, I'm Clayton Taylor. I am a NASM certified personal trainer. I'm also a Precision Nutrition 1 certified nutrition coach. But more importantly, I am a health coach here to help people work out the ins and outs of why they haven't found success with fitness previously. Now, there are various reasons for that. It all obviously depends on who you're talking to and each individual setup. But it's my opinion that fitness in general ignores personal psychology largely in favor of standards and ideals that aren't necessarily in line with who you are as a person and where you are that day. Traditional fitness talks a lot about losing body weight, adding muscle. We're going to talk about all that stuff, but to me, what's really important is meeting each individual where they are at today. And I do that for my clients. I do that for myself. And I find that as far as long-term sustainability and adherence goes, there's not much more appropriate or advantageous exercise than addressing somebody's personal psychology. Just to give a little context, I have a bachelor's in psychology from San Francisco State, and I'm about to start the master's program for behavioral psychology. It's called the Mind, Brain, and Behavior program at San Francisco State. More importantly than the educational standpoint is how can I help as many people as effectively as possible? And the answer to that is, in my opinion, based in more in personal psychology than it is the ins and outs of physiology. Now, that said, physiology is a big part of what we do. Exercise physiology is an invaluable tool to understand when you start approaching fitness and I'd say health in general, physical health in general, and even mental health, even though it's a bit outside of my scope of practice to talk about mental health. It's also kind of not, because exercise is such an important part of helping ourselves to become more effective and more efficient and live happier and healthier. So when we talk about mental health, when we talk about physical health, when we talk about exercise physiology, to me, they kind of all blend together. They're all different aspects of the same thing, which is the human. The human. But it's real. You know, we are all people in the end, and as people, we have good days, we have bad days. And to have this pre-existing idea of what we believe exercise should be ignores the fact that ultimately fitness is relative. It's relative to who you are, what you can do, what you want to do, what you're willing to do, and I mean, a big part of it too is just straight up nutrition too, which we'll get into. But before we do all that, I want to start talking about the fundamentals, because it's so important to understanding how to move your body safely. A lot of people, even people who lift and people who run and people who do all these kinds of things that we talk about as trainers and as coaches, are not necessarily making the most out of their activities. So one of the first things that I do as a coach is I help folks to understand how they can best be spending their time, their exercise time. So we're going to go and start that with a bang with, in my opinion, what's the most important piece of exercise physiology for a beginner to understand, which really the tent for this is safety. So that's the most important thing for anybody beginning to understand. And how we approach safety comes in a couple different ways. So first and foremost, when we're talking about safety, I like to express to clients and to other folks that it's really important to be consistently and constantly checking in with yourself and in touch with your body. The old no pain, no gain. The old no pain, no gain ideas and philosophies, in my opinion, are antiquated at best and harmful at worst. Granted, there are absolutely people, bodybuilders, people who are, advanced hypertrophy, where that no pain, no gain idea comes back into play. But for most of us, we want to learn to respect pain and to adjust to it so that we can catch pain and really, it should be discomfort before it even becomes pain. But so we can catch those feelings, we can recognize them, say, hey, that doesn't feel quite right. And we can put the weights down and alter course before a discomfort turns into a pain and a pain becomes an injury. A really important part of not injuring yourself is knowing the appropriate exercises to pursue as a beginner. So we're going to get right into that right now. We're going to talk about compound muscle movements, which are, in my opinion, and pretty universally recognized, that compound muscle movements, compound exercises are the way to go, not only for beginners, but even for advanced weightlifters. Granted, as you get more advanced, you get more variety and more repetition, and so it becomes a slightly different game. But for people who are starting out, there's not, in my opinion, there's no better way to start out resistance work than by focusing on the core four, that we call them. Whether you're a beginner or you're intermediate to an advanced weightlifter, you should understand the difference between compound muscle movements and isolation muscle movements. Compound muscle movements use multiple groups of muscles in combination with each other to execute a movement, whereas isolation exercises, rely on primarily just one muscle to make that happen. So for example, a push-up is going to use primarily your chest, but you're also using your triceps and your shoulders in order to execute that movement. Whereas with a bicep curl, really, you're only using your bicep to create that movement. There is various value to that, but we're going to go ahead and jump right into the reference material to explain that instead of me trying to just say it. So we're here at healthline.com. We're going to start with a really well-known website here that we know we can get quality information from. You can see it's medically reviewed by somebody who is an NASM CPT, personal trainer, just like myself. Oh, he's from Scranton. He's an office guy, huh? All right, let's see. So this is the person who reviewed it. So what does Healthline say? How does Healthline describe compound muscle movements? How to add compound exercises to your routine. This is a great start for anybody who's looking for some basics and some walkthrough here. Okay, so we're going to start at the top. And we are going to just go ahead and define what are compound exercises. Healthline defines these compound exercises as exercises that work multiple muscle groups at the same time. For example, squat is a compound exercise that works the quadriceps, glutes, and calves. Compound exercises differ from isolation exercises. Those work a single muscle group at a time. A traditional bicep curl is an isolation exercise meant to strengthen the biceps, for example. Okay, so all the same stuff I already said. So we're just going to cut all this. For our purposes, isolation is one muscle group and compound is multiple muscle groups. That's pretty much what Healthline here says, but we're going to go ahead and check in with them anyway. Immediately, we can see the difference. One of them, right from the start, is going to create more activation across the body. One of them is going to create a little bit less. Now, depending on what your purposes are, sometimes a compound muscle group might be more effective. Sometimes an isolation muscle group might be more effective. But for the most part, isolation exercises are only going to strengthen that one place. Okay, let's go ahead and just get right into the benefits then. The biggest benefit of compound exercises may be that they are an efficient use of your time. If you only have a limited amount of time to exercise, you'll work more muscles and build more strength by focusing on compound exercises. So immediately we can see that with this statement here, yeah, they're saying if you don't have much time, but I would rework that to say, if you want to make the most of the time that you're exercising, you're going to be doing compound muscle groups to begin with, and then working in the isolation muscle groups because just more bang for buck. And for me, it's less about the bang for buck, and it's more about the fact that compound muscle movements are the way that we move through the world. They are our more functional, more practical movements. For example, with bicep curl, you may only use that if you like lift a tray or do bicep curls. You're lifting something up off the ground, right? But with squats, we use that every single day. We use a squat every single day when we go to the bathroom. You squat down to go on the potty, and you squat up to get off the potty. That should be an ad for the squatty potty, shouldn't it? That's why it's called the squatty potty, is because we do a squat to create that movement. I didn't even mean to you guys, if you know, you know. All right, so we're going to go right into these other benefits. We're talking about burning more calories, improving intramuscular coordination, elevating heart rate, improving flexibility, improving strength, gaining more muscle mass. I'm going to go ahead and say that there is one piece that supersedes all the rest, and I just said it, so you're not going to be surprised. The main benefit of doing compound muscle movements is the fact that most of the movements that we use to get around the world with our bodies tend to be these compound muscle movements. For example, we use squats when we get up and down from the toilet. We could be doing deadlifts, should be doing deadlifts when we take out the trash. We do push-ups when we get out of our bed. We just get up, or you get up off the ground. And then we do pulls anytime you need to pull something. So, usually we're opening a door or whatever, and we don't need much strength to do that. But we want to make sure that we're balanced. So if we're used to pushing our body up off the ground, we want to be able to pull our body up off the ground as well. From a longevity health standpoint, there's not much more value than being able to more comfortably move your body through the world. To give a real clear example of that, and let's see if we can find it real quick. Studies show that grip strength has a direct correlation with longevity. All right, let's see. Build grip strength. Okay, so we're going to go to Cleveland Clinic here. And let's see. All right. What your grip strength means for your overall health and exercises to improve it. Turns out your health is really in your hands. Nice job. We like that. We like puns. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys find this on your own at home or read it. You can pause it and read it. Because the bottom line here is grip strength is related to long life. Longevity. There we go. Longevity. When you add it all up, your grip strength is essentially an indication of your overall health and longevity. In a way, your grip strength can almost predict your future health. I don't think it's too extreme to say that grip strength can be a predictor of life expectancy, Dr. Hashmi states. Lowered grip strength is a sign of frailty and associated with a high risk for dangerous complications. As those conditions and hospitalizations rack up, it takes its toll. The opposite is encouragingly also true. People with a strong grip strength are more able to stay active well into their older years, and there are some easy exercises that can help you maintain and even improve your grip strength. There are multiple aspects to that, like if you have good grip strength, chances are your body is a little more robust because you are participating in activities that create the fitness adaptations that bring robustness along with that grip strength. So because of this, compound muscle movements end up being the most practically functional way to increase strength, flexibility, robustness, all these things that add to better grip strength and more longevity of life. Basically, if we are exercising to create fitness adaptations, we want to be focusing on the most useful of those tools and activities and fitness adaptations. So in this case, pushing yourself up off the ground, lowering yourself down on the toilet, taking out the trash, pulling a door open. Those are all vital activities that we want to be able to do successfully without injuring ourselves into our older age, into later life. Okay, so as you can see, this Healthline article has examples for you to do. They talk about the deadlift, talk about reverse lunge with bicep curl. Oh, so they give you a little combo there. Squat. There we go. Front lunge with twist. All right. These are not the compound muscle movements that I would recommend necessarily, but they're fine. These are all good movements. We're going to go ahead and move on to the bar bend article here. Benefits of compound exercises, more muscle activation. You're going to get more bang for buck with your exercises. So if your goal is to have a more effective workout from a functional or, calorie burning standpoint, working more muscles at once is going to be a more effective way to do that. Higher loading potential, so you can lift more with your compound lifts. And here's a good one. We talked about this already, but time efficient training. Basically, you get more done in a shorter amount of time, okay? Now these guys have their own examples of their compound muscle movements. Squat, bench press, deadlift. Oh, overhead press. So where's the pulls? Row. Okay, there we go. These guys are doing these are the guys here. Okay. Of course they have it at bar bend. Okay. So when we're talking about the core 4, they've got 5 listed here, but we'll just go through them all. Best compound exercises, bar bend lists the squat as their first one. Squatting is the leg exercise, but it's not the only leg exercise. Squat's going to work your quads primarily, and but it also works, as you can see here, squats of all shapes. Size required, you flex at the knee, hip, ankle. So you have to move all these joints, and then you also load up your quads, glutes, hamstrings, lower back, and abdominals. So we've got squat from bar bend. We've got the bench press from bar bend as well. Deadlift, overhead press. This is not one of my core 4, but it's definitely like the 5th. Because we go core 4 and then we go to biceps, triceps, and shoulders. So for isolation. So even though overhead press is a compound muscle movement, I consider the core 4 chest press, pulls or rows, squat, and deadlift. And then you can see 3 of those were just stated. And then our last one, the row. I said pulls, but row, same difference. The idea here is that we're doing pushes to activate the front of our body, upper body. We're doing pulls to activate the back of our upper body. We're doing squats to activate the front of our lower body. And we're doing deadlifts to activate the back of our lower body. Oh, okay. This is a really great point too. Many, but not all compound exercises are considered some form of bench press, row, overhead press, deadlift, or squat. The distinction isn't affected by the equipment you use or what goals you're using the movement to reach. Practically speaking, compound movements are great for building total body strength, teaching good postural control and spatial awareness, and hitting a lot of muscle groups quickly. Most workout routines are built around compound exercises to varying degrees. This holds true in the programming that I do for clients, and that I recommend to folks is, unless you're somebody who is lifting more than 3 times a week, there's not really a whole lot of reason to get into isolation movements unless you want to train that muscle specifically. Say you want big biceps. Yeah, sure. Train bicep curls. But if your goal is to exercise with the most bang for buck weekly, and you're only exercising, an hour, hour and a half, 3 times a week, well, you're going to get enough recovery between each of those workouts anyway. So you might as well, for the most part, be doing full body compound muscle group workouts. Now, depending on who you are, how intensely you're exercising, the isolation movements break up the monotony and the stress of the constant compound muscle groups. So they definitely have a purpose within the framework of an effective resistance training program. But the bottom line here is that unless you're training at a high level, unless you're training a lot and often, your best bet's probably to focus on the 4 compound, well, they say the 5 here. I say the core 4 compound muscle movements, which for me are pushes, pulls, squats, and deadlifts. Shoulder overhead press, shoulder press absolutely is an excellent one to mix in there, but I like to focus on the deadlift. Sorry, the press, the pull, the squat, and the deadlift as our core 4. Okay. And then, they're saying compound your gains. Basically, if you want to, here it is. If you want big gains, don't shy away from big lifts. Now, I know we're not all looking for big gains, but that's a statement right there, right? It fits right in with the more bang for buck for these exercises. Okay, 8 compound moves for building functional strength. Here we got muscle and fitness now. It's kind of all the same information. We're not going to get into it too much. Oh, dips. They're giving all kinds of different. So they got squat, they say. They like the squat. Everyone likes the squat. Squat's the best exercise. I mean, honestly, the fact that we're going through these 3 highly regarded health and wellness websites, Healthline, Barbend, and Muscle and Fitness, and they all consistently say that the squat is one of the most important compound muscle movements. That should tell you something. I'm gonna say that too. Squats are my favorite exercise. Talk about bang for buck. You can do them anywhere. Watch TV while you're doing them. You can find an excuse to do them. You don't need weight beyond your body weight. You need time under tension. You need time under tension, and you need high repetition. That said, a set of adjustable dumbbells in your home goes a long way to being able to squat kind of whenever you want to, however you want to. All right. Bottom line is, if you want to work out most effectively, your program probably consists primarily of compound muscle movements. Again, that's pushes, pulls, squats, and deadlifts. So we're talking bench press and push-ups. We're talking rows and resistance band pulls. We're talking squats, and we're talking deadlifts. Between those 4 movements, you get front of your upper body, you get the back of your upper body, you get the front of your lower body, and you get the back of your lower body. Now, a couple of these websites, Muscle and Fitness and Barbend, also included overhead press or military press as part of that compound. They didn't say core 5, but that makes sense. Certainly, military press is an important compound exercise, but when we're talking about the core 4, we're talking about pushes, pulls, squats, and deadlifts. As we exercise more, we start breaking it up so that we have more time for recovery, and we also can collect more repetitions depending on what your goals are. Point being here is that any good program is the same set of exercises, and sometimes there's variation added, but generally the same set of exercises performed progressively and repetitiously over time. What we're doing is we are stripping down our muscles so that when we go and sleep and eat appropriately, our bodies have a chance to recover and grow stronger than they were previously. So in that regard, there isn't more effective resistance work movements than our core 4 compound muscle movements. And again, and I know I've said them ad nauseum, but I'm going to say them again: pushes, pulls, squats, and deadlifts. If you aren't doing pushes, pulls, squats, and deadlifts, then you're missing something out of your program, or you're highly specialized and this is not the podcast for you anyway. Or rather, you might want to hang out and listen because it's fun and I'm awesome. But that's not what we're speaking to right now. Bottom line is that your pushes, your pulls, your squats, and your deadlifts should make up the majority of your exercises. Proper program, a program that begets results. Begets. I think it's just gets. A program that gets results is focused on a core set of muscle movements, and usually compound muscle movements, performed progressively and repetitiously over time. Importantly, in combination with proper nutrition, sufficient protein, but more than that, and sufficient sleep. We need the nutrition in order to rebuild our muscles that have been stripped down and need to build back up. And it's while we're sleeping most primarily that we get the most recovery from that stripping of the muscles, and they build back stronger than they were before. All right, that'll take us through the rest of today. And it's important to remember that when we are creating a personal program, that we're not getting lost in all of the flashiness of all the stuff that you see on Instagram and all the all the trainers who are showing you all these cool movements. A proper program, a program that gets results, has a core set of muscle movements, and primarily these core four that we're talking about, performed progressively and repetitiously over time. And of course, we need to make sure that we properly fuel our bodies with adequate nutrition, with adequate protein to let our muscles build back stronger. And most importantly, is we get sleep. We get the sleep that we need. We can, if we do all this work and we do all this exercise, we do all this proper nutrition, and then we don't sleep, we're missing out on the most important component of this entire thing, which is the rest and recovery. It's the rest and recovery that allows us to grow. It's the rest and recovery that allows our bodies and our muscles to build back stronger than they were before we did the movements. And it's the rest and recovery that allows us to maintain the mental sanity in order to keep on doing it. So thanks for hanging out today. Tune in for our next one in another 2 weeks. We will be talking about, I don't remember right at the moment, so maybe I'll record something else and we'll say what it is. Maybe it'll be voiceover. So this is the spot for the voiceover. Okay. That's what we're doing next week. Okay. That said, thanks for hanging out, you guys. I'm Clayton Taylor, and we'll see you next time. Hi. Hi, guys. I'm Clayton. And that's making the final cut. Hi, guys. I'm Clayton. I'm Clayton. Hi, guys. I'm Clayton. Welcome to episode 1 of Thoughtful Movement and Fitness, where we talk about the basics of fitness, the fundamentals